And we continue at 2:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in New Mexico.
Nicholas writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Sorry you got stood up, but I love how mad John gets when you guys get stood up in rude ways by these public officials and or candidates. I appreciate that you highlight these situations when they happen. After all, it says a lot about someone's character how they navigate appointments and cancellations. If you can't manage a team well enough to make appointments on time or communicate when you're going to miss an appointment, then how the hell are you going to run a city or a state or anything of importance?
Well, here's the thing. If you are the front runner, you can behave in certain ways and get away with it. Although that didn't really work out for Katie Porter, now did it? If you're not finishing in the top two, you really need every advantage you can get. And if you're being offered airtime in LA and San Francisco and maybe Fresno, if we decide to put it on the weekend, that's a great opportunity. And this is the second time that Bianco has been booked and he just hasn't shown up on time. The last time he showed up late and we moved on to another topic. This time he never called in at all. So I don't know what to say. It's tough for a Republican to win a statewide race in California. It's not possible if you don't show up when you're booked somewhere. Good luck. All right, let's move on and go back to the sound of another candidate for governor, former state controller Betty Yee, who went on with Piers Morgan to talk about transgendered athletes.
It's not going to be the long races, but the shorter races.
What 100 meters, 200 meters?
Could be 100 meter, sure.
You think, I'm sorry to Betty, but given that obviously I got you.
This has turned into a brainstorming session, minus the brain.
Well, in the old days of talk radio, when adversarial interviews were the norm, if you're the host and you know your guest who you're trying to explode is taking a position that's indefensible, they cannot defend it because it's just not possible. They don't understand the basic facts, yet they're digging and digging and digging. There's blood in the water and you're going for the kill. Now, Piers Morgan is not a radio guy and he doesn't come from that world, but he has those sensibilities. He knows he's got a live one on the line and he's just reeling her in.
You think, I'm sorry to Betty, but given that obviously I got you on because Katie Porter wouldn't answer questions, you genuinely think that we should have a gender-neutral 100 meters in the Olympics when it comes to California?
What I am saying is I don't know that we know fully. We know fully.
But why do you think? Well, we do know fully because we know that women's 100-meter records compared to men's show that men are much, much faster over 100 meters than women. That's why we separate the sexes. Same with 200 meters, same with 400 meters, same with 5,000 meters, same with 800 meters, same with 10,000 meters. That is why we separate the sexes. If you had men and women competing in the same Olympic track and field events, women would never win a medal again. How do you not know that?
Well, let me just say this. I think we can all agree that we want people to have equal opportunity to participate. I don't know that we know, frankly, just with
Oh, got so close.
Halfway there.
I don't know that we know, frankly, just with transgender people participating in athletics, really how they would fare in competition. So I would like to
we
be
do
able
know.
To see.
We know with the CIF, when you let them compete, they win everything. Particularly athletes who, when they competed in the men's division, couldn't win a thing. Suddenly, they're winning everything in the women's division.
So I would like to be able to see full participation. And if it means having to put transgender people in a different type of division to see how they perform, we would do that.
But would you, as a principle, you would quite like to see a gender-neutral Olympics when it comes to LA?
If the physicality of the sexes bear true to that, including with transgender people, yes, it should be gender neutral. I don't think we know enough.
We don't know enough.
You don't think we know enough about the relative physiology of men and women to work out whether they should compete separately?
Certainly when transgender people transition and they are participating in athletics, I think we need to know more.
Would you like boxing to be gender neutral in the Olympics?
No, of course not.
Why not?
Well, I'm not a boxing fan, and I'm not a particular big fan of the sport. It is high potential for injury and harm.
Really? So how did you...
Who told her you've got what it takes to be governor?
Whoever did that was mistaken.
So how did you feel about Imran Khalif, the Algerian boxer, competing in the Paris Olympics when Imran Khalif had failed to qualify for the world, or had been disqualified from the World Championships the year before for testing positive for male chromosomes?
I don't know much about boxing, Piers. I'm sorry. I don't have a view about it.
Okay. Betty Yee, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I appreciate it.
He squeezed everything he could out of that interview.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Talk about getting all the juice out of the squeeze. I don't even think there's any pulp left in that orange.
Well, it's funny, too, that Betty Yee's the one that's been trying to capitalize. Well, all the candidates have, but she's the one that is having events calling for Katie Porter to drop out, because in that original series of interviews, the one that Julie Watts did on CBS Sacramento, Betty Yee's answers on those questions were also terrible.
This is what you get in a one-party state. You think, oh, she was a statewide elected official 2 different times. She was on the Board of Equalization 2 different times. This woman knows what she's doing. But no.
In fact, we got room here. Johnny, let me play for you. This is how Betty Yee answered the same questions that Katie Porter stormed out of in that CBS Sacramento 30-minute piece.
40% of Californians voted for Trump.
Yes.
What do you say to those voters who say, I'm not aligned with this narrative?
Call it what you want. But at the end of the day, it's about who's going to represent your interests in Washington. And so I like to have the conversation more about how it's going to affect people's lives. And obviously the press and how the campaign's going to unfold will be at this level in terms of, the president.
Wait, did she say in Washington? She's running for governor of California.
But she's being asked about Prop 50.
Oh, I see.
Will be at this level in terms of, the president intervening, Texas changing the lines, California responding. But really, at the end of the day, it's about who's going to represent California's interests throughout all of California back in Congress.
And for Californians who live in red districts now,
yes,
and who want that representation, what do you say to them when they say, yes, but this is going to take that away from me?
They still have representation. They still have a voice at the ballot box when they vote for whomever they believe is going to represent their...
But you call...
No, they're literally, if you live in Rockland, you won't be able to vote for Kevin Kiley. If you live in Norco, you're not going to be able to vote for that guy. That's how this works.
They're going to give you a gerrymandered district, so the population center is somewhere other than where you live.
But you called it manipulation. I mean, it literally is being redrawn to be a blue district as opposed to a red.
Yes, it is, but it still includes them, and I would hope that...
Yes, it is manipulation.
Oh, she is awful.
Yeah.
Yes, it is, but it's still...
Everyone was paying attention to the Katie Porter blow-up, but a lot of the other candidates looked equally terrible in this series of interviews.
Yes, it is, but it still includes them, and I would hope that they would look at the candidates who are running.
But I'm sorry, but by definition,
yes,
the whole point is to outweigh their vote, right?
You know who looks the best out of all of this is Julie Watts. Great reporter.
She is fantastic.
Right.
Well, it's to keep par with what the impact would have been in terms of gaining 5 Republican seats.
Right, but for them specifically. So let's say I am. What's one of the districts you were talking about? Where these rural districts?
Yeah, up in North State, Shasta, Siskiyou County.
Okay, so let's say
where they're moving North State and marrying it up with Marin because that's a line.
Well, and it looks like genitalia. It looks like male genitalia. That district now. In fact, it looks like Gavin Newsom's head.
Okay, so let's say I live in Shasta and I am a lifelong Republican and I absolutely want a Republican representative in Congress. And for years, I've had one. Now someone is saying you still get to vote the same way you vote and all your neighbors will still vote the same way you vote. But that vote is now being diluted because we're going to put in all these other votes. So you no longer get that Republican representative because we, the Democratic majority, are going to decide to dilute you, right? So what do you say to those folks who say this is manipulation? You are taking me and my neighbors' votes, and you are essentially making them a moot point because now you're going to put all these other votes that will essentially counteract ours.
That is a valid point in terms of their voice being diluted somewhat. But what I will
think Julie Watts just talked Betty Yee out of supporting Prop 50.
Well, it's the same thing as the transgendered athlete issue. She's taking a position that is indefensible. So if you have someone asking follow-up questions on an indefensible position, you're going to look stupid. There's no way around it.
But what I will say to them also is, look, these are areas of the state that actually want to become vital economies. These are areas of the state that actually have probably disproportionate rates of people on Medi-Cal, Medicaid. These are parts of the state where people are relying on, food assistance more than probably other parts. And I would just say, who's going to best represent those interests when those cuts are upon you? And
you think that Democrats will better represent those interests, and so you think this is better for them, even if they don't want a Democratic
I actually do, and I will say up north, there's been a member of Congress who was at the forefront of cutting SNAP, at the forefront of voting for health care cuts. So how does that actually represent his district?
Well, they voted for him.
Okay, think about that for a second. The framing of the question was, if you live in Shasta County and you're a lifelong Republican and you and your neighbors vote Republican for Congress every cycle, you currently have a Republican member who is representing your interests. Under Prop 50, we're going to dilute your vote by shifting the population center away from your county to someplace that's nowhere near where you live. And you're going to get someone who disagrees with you on everything. And she's saying you're better off because you're wrong and that new representative is right. And you'll get better representation because you don't know that you're wrong and they do.
I don't think Betty Yee is going to be the new front runner anytime soon.
Were her answers to those questions that bad on every single one?
Well, this is the thing. Julie Watts has only released the first series of these. She sat down with every candidate for an hour, and then she puts out a compilation. This was all about Prop 50. I'm assuming we're going to see another one on another issue, and until Betty Yee drops out, we're going to hear bad answer after bad answer after bad answer on every policy under the sun.
She deserves to be at 1%. I know there are some candidates who just have a hard time raising money and getting their name ID up. And you could be a great candidate with a great resume. And if you can't raise the money, you're just not viable. She deserves to be in the basement. How did we not go broke with her as our controller?
We did.
That's true. Well, now it all makes sense. All right, let's shift gears and talk about a different group of morons. And let's move to the LA County Board of Supervisors, where they have some interesting things to say about the ICE raids.
In fact, the LA County Board of Supervisors, thanks to a motion written by Lindsay Horvath and seconded by Janice Hahn, have voted to declare a state of emergency for ICE raids.
Gotta be kidding.
For more, here's a report from KTLA.
The LA County Board of Supervisors voted to issue a state of emergency over federal immigration operations. The proclamation means the county can now financially assist those they say are struggling financially due to ICE raids. Those raids have caused widespread fear among LA County's over 3 million immigrants.
So what exactly can the county do? John Finolio has answers live from Hollywood tonight. John.
I'll tell you one thing they can't do. Stop the ICE raids.
Micah, Cher, since June, federal agents have detained or arrested thousands of Angelenos suspected of being in the U.S. unlawfully. American citizens have also been swept up. LA County supervisors say an emergency declaration is needed to better respond to those folks who have been impacted, but opponents of this move say it's just not necessary and may very well hurt landlords.
Oh, yeah, because you know what this is actually about, John? What did the LA County Board of Supervisors do the last time they declared a state of emergency? Oh, that's right. They declared an eviction moratorium. And the time before that, an eviction moratorium. That's all this is. They are giving themselves special powers under the guise of an emergency to once again cancel the rent.
This is what they always do. And they will take whatever the next hot button issue is in the future and do the same thing.
Horvath?
Aye.
Supervisor Horvath? Aye.
By a 4-1 vote, the LA County...
Yeah, Barger voted no, but Barger said nothing in going up after this.
She knows she's going to lose the vote 4-1 because she's like the blonde girl on the Munsters. She's the only normal one in that building.
The LA County Board of Supervisors declaring a state of emergency over ongoing federal immigration raids.
For months, families have been living under threat. Workers have been kidnapped from job sites, and children have been coming home to empty dinner tables. Los Angeles County has the responsibility to protect every resident, no matter where they come from.
I don't know what's up with her mic, but you can hear her mouth breathing.
She is arguably the most ambitious member of that board. She wants to be mayor of LA or governor of California, congresswoman, U.S. senator. The Board of Supervisors is not the last stop on the subway for her, unfortunately.
Los Angeles County has the responsibility to protect every resident, no matter where they come from or what papers they carry. Declaring a local emergency allows us to move faster to meet that responsibility.
The move allows the board to provide assistance to county residents they say have struggled financially because of the crackdown on immigrants.
So now we're taking tax dollars and we're giving it to people that are in the country illegally.
Great.
Including rent relief to tenants directly impacted by the raids.
Which is eviction moratorium, something they did for 3 years during COVID.
These people are left with absolutely no choice. If you can't leave your home, you can't work. These are people that go out every single day and work so hard. I myself witnessed kidnapping by ICE at the Home Depot in Westlake. So we urge you to declare an emergency.
The emergency declaration also allows for some state money to be used for legal aid and other county services. But many landlords object, saying they could suffer financially following a ban on evictions and rental increases during the pandemic.
An emergency declaration is only needed to pass another countywide eviction moratorium. A third eviction moratorium will be the death blow to many mom and pop owners struggling from years of unpaid rent from the pandemic and the wildfires.
And of course, it was the eviction moratorium which caused so many mom and pop landlords to go out of business and sell their buildings to private equity firms, which is one of the reasons why it's so damn expensive to live here.
That's right. What the board is doing is they're making it so that everyone's going to have to rent from Donald Sterling.
Supervisor Catherine Barger casting the only lone vote opposing the motion, saying that declaring a local emergency is not the right way to respond to families and communities impacted by federal immigration enforcement operations.
So what does today's action do, County Council?
It proclaims an emergency based upon the federal enforcement actions.
What is going to change tomorrow? So today's action really doesn't change anything tomorrow.
Nope, but it gets Lindsay Horvath the big fat headline and the support of a whole bunch of unions.
Which was the entire point. Well, there you have it. LA County is doing what LA County does. And I don't know how you can operate as a landlord in this county anymore. Because guess what? There's no moratorium on paying your mortgage to the bank. The bank wants their money, they expect it, and if you don't pay it, they'll take your house from you. But if your tenant doesn't pay you, well, it's because of the ICE raids. So figure it out. These people are fools. Actually, you know what they are? They're communists, because communists do not believe in private property. And what they're doing is they're taking private property that belongs to someone else, and they're saying, we want you to give it to this person without compensation because we think they deserve it. We think that they've been dealt a bad hand of cards. That Mamdani character in New York City is not alone. There's a lot of people on that board who think just like him. 4 of them. It's the John Phillips Show. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222 is your telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. And right now it's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And Randy, we could call this one the Nurse Jackie edition.
A nurse in Fresno is being sentenced for stealing fentanyl from work.
Good job.
For more, here's ABC 30 in the Central Valley.
So shortly, I'm going to be making telephone calls to her loved ones and to her employer.
Now to our other top story. A woman learned her fate in a Fresno County courtroom this afternoon for stealing fentanyl from her employer in 2019. Thank you for joining us tonight for Action News Live at 6. I'm Margot Kim.
And good evening. I'm Rowan Armstrong. We're live tonight on ABC 30, Hulu Live, and wherever you stream. In a story you'll see only on Action News, anchor Eliza Navarro shares the decision made by the judge and why the defense attorney says he was hoping for a different outcome.
Thursday afternoon, former Fresno nurse Melissa Galvani was handcuffed in court and sentenced to 180 days in custody and 2 years probation. The judge allowing her...
For California, that seems pretty high.
Yeah, you could steal all the copper wire you want, force entire neighborhoods to sit in the dark with no cell phone service, and nothing happens to you. But you're a nurse with a drug problem, man, they let you have it.
The judge allowing her to split her time with 90 days in jail and 90 days completing an adult offender work program. Defense attorney Jack Ravel was hoping for no jail time, describing Galvani as a changed woman.
It's been a very difficult time, primarily because I think ordinarily she's just an exceptional person, a person who worked really hard to overcome some early life difficulties that ultimately led to an addiction.
Galvani was a registered nurse and found guilty of stealing fentanyl.
I disagree. Go ahead, throw the book at her. If she's going to blame this on having awful parents and that's why she was stealing the fentanyl, nope. Have fun in jail, sweetheart.
Galvani was a registered nurse and found guilty of stealing fentanyl from her employer in 2019. She was discovered after the director of nurses at the Ear, Nose, and Throat Medical Center in Northeast Fresno was helping do a daily count of the controlled substances and realized vials were missing. At the time,
you know, it's so easy to buy this crap on the street. Why would you go through the trouble of stealing it from a place that you know they're counting the inventory?
Hey, what's that in your purse there, lady? Oh, it's not what you think it is. I actually stole some minis off of my last flight out of the flight attendant's drink cart.
At the time, Galvani testified that she was using fentanyl on the patients, then sneaking off and injecting herself with the leftovers.
Yikes!
I'm sure those patients were in good custody.
Oh, boy, is this trashy.
Ravel says that Galvani...
She used the same needle, too?
Let's hope not.
Ravel says that Galvani knew she had a problem and was dealing with an emotional battle. He asked her to take notes on her feelings and thoughts, sharing about the relief she felt when being arrested.
You're going to be able to start dealing with your addiction because you previously haven't been able to. So that was one of the things that she thought about.
In court, Ravel explained to the judge that Galvani put in the time and effort to better herself, including enrolling in a rehabilitation and recovery program.
She participated in a 3-year treatment program.
By the way, it takes 5, almost 6 years to go through a simple case like this.
Well, and think about it. Let's just say you had surgery on your nose. I don't know, you've decided you want to make it in Hollywood and you need a respectable schnoz. And you're in insane pain because you just had your nose broken and put back together. And the doctor said that you should receive a certain amount of drugs to take the pain away. But you only get a portion of the drugs because the other portion is being consumed by the nurse.
The first 2 years of which involved daily Narcotics Anonymous meetings.
Galvani's nursing license was suspended, and she was currently working at the Poverello house full-time. She is also facing the same charges for stealing fentanyl from an employer in Madera County, also several years ago. Ravel says...
So she wasn't just doing this at one hospital.
Oh, no, she was trick-or-treating all over the neighborhood.
Ravel says sentencing in Madera will have to be pushed back. In Fresno, Eliza Navarro, ABC 30 Action News.
So there you go. The nurse that was stealing fentanyl from the hospital is getting sentenced to a little bit of jail time.
And Randy, it's time to reopen the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And this edition takes us to, well, the city where Lindsay Horvath used to be on the council before she became supervisor, West Hollywood.
Where a man got ambush robberied right there on the street. Here's KTLA.
Now to a terrifying armed robbery in broad daylight. Surveillance video capturing the moment a man is ambushed by a group of thieves in West Hollywood. Tonight, the victim telling KTLA he is still in shock.
Rachel Menitoff has the latest now from West Hollywood.
Hi, good evening. The victim is actually visiting from San Francisco. He believes this was a crime of opportunity, that the thieves were randomly targeting him for his valuables. The sheriff's department tonight saying this group of burglars are probably professionals and have likely hit this neighborhood before.
That's got to make people feel safe when they go to sleep.
It was shocking. It still hasn't hit me.
Abram Cortez speaking to KTLA live on air a day after he fell victim to a brazen armed robbery. In this surveillance video obtained by WeHo Times, you see him crossing the street on Hacienda Place in West Hollywood. All of a sudden, a grayish silver sedan pulls up and three men dressed in all black jump out, guns drawn. The third assailant apparently had a crowbar in hand.
Whoa!
Can you imagine if you're living in an area that's very expensive, you're in a neighborhood that it's not necessarily known for being violent, you go for a stroll in this neighborhood that you pay a fortune to live in, and then a car pulls up with three masked men, guns and crowbars, and you know what's going to happen next.
I threw my phone and keys and kind of fell backwards and as they pushed me down, and they were just feeling my body, asking me for things.
Cortez says none of his valuables were very visible from afar. Nonetheless, the armed bandits made off with his watch, bracelets, and most sentimental of all, his engraved wedding ring. In all, he estimates he lost about $12,000 in some of his most prized possessions, but is grateful that he's safe, albeit a bit scratched and bruised.
Honestly, it was not even real, and it happened so quickly that there was a gentleman who was there, kind of shocked as well, and he just kept asking me, "Are you okay? Are you okay?"
That man was Mike Pingle, a reporter and photographer with WeHo Times.
It was surreal. It was like you're watching something on television.
Pingle lives a few buildings away and watched the violent ambush in disbelief.
It's nothing at that.
Yeah, this was happening in broad daylight. How emboldened are you that you don't think anything's going to happen to you, that you commit an armed robbery randomly on the street of just some guy?
Well, the politicians can say that the crime is actually going down because the statistics show that crime is down. Crime is in free fall. We're safer now than we were in the 1950s. But just look at the behavior of the criminals. They don't even feel the need to be discreet about what they're doing. They're doing it in broad daylight because they know it's anything goes.
It's nothing at that moment to think. It's just going, do what you need to do, protect yourself. And I talked to him later. I said, your life is worth more than your possessions.
The attack lasted only a couple of moments before the three suspects and a getaway driver sped off, last seen turning east onto Fountain Avenue. Cortez says he feels like this was random, simply a case of bad luck and unfortunate timing.
I've been sitting here thinking, like, what could I have done differently? What that? Should I have tried to fight back? But you can't do anything differently but live your life.
I think the thing differently you could have done was don't come to L.A. County.
Well, how about fill out your ballot differently?
And as far as we know, those suspects are still on the loose. The sheriff's department would appreciate hearing.
It is LA County, so did we really think that anyone was going to get caught here?
Nobody.
And as far as we know, those suspects are still on the loose. The sheriff's department would appreciate hearing from anyone with information about their whereabouts. In West Hollywood, I'm Rachel Menitoff, KTLA 5 News. Back to you.
And there's everything we know about the West Hollywood ambush robbery.
Be careful. It's crazy out there. It's the John Phillips Show. 800-222-5222. And right now it's time to reopen the California Crime Blotter.
Dummy.
Questions?
And Randy, this one involves games on the telephone.
Somebody in Sacramento was making a bunch of fake 911 calls. Guess what? You can't do that. For more, here is Fox 40 in Sacramento.
So 4 felony charges from just a few phone calls. Deputies say a 41-year-old Sacramento man is behind them.
41 years old?
You are a complete and total loser if you're 41 and spending your time that way.
How about the guy that was in his 60s that was Karen Bass's deputy mayor that called in the fake bomb threat?
He's a bigger loser.
41-year-old Sacramento man is behind them. Now, due to state law, he could walk free tonight and pick up the phone again.
Well, of course.
It's California, after all.
This intentional misuse and abuse, that's what causes problems. And that's what really, again, just drains resources away from people that actually need it.
Deputies say 4 emergency calls over 3 days all turned out to be fake. 2 bomb threats to a Walmart on Florin Road. Another bomb threat to a Jack in the Box.
That's what he's doing?
He called in 2 bomb threats to a Walmart.
And 1 to a Jack in the Box?
I guess his 2 tacos weren't hot.
2 bomb threats to a Walmart on Florin Road. Another bomb threat to a Jack in the Box nearby. And a stabbing that never happened.
He called.
Okay, this guy is a mental patient.
Called once on the 27th, twice on the 28th, once on the 29th. And finally, deputies were able to kind of hone in, find out who this person was, where he was making these calls from, and then ultimately this morning, where he finally was, where he was arrested.
Sergeant Amar Gandhi says calls like these trigger a massive response, diverting resources away from real emergencies.
It's alarming because obviously you have thousands of people going.
You think they sent the same amount of SWAT team cars to the second time they called in the bomb threat at Walmart?
What do you think he does? Do you think he hides out near the Walmart because he thinks it's funny to see the SWAT team show up?
It's alarming because obviously you have thousands of people going through, some of these big stores every day. Fortunately, did not, prompt an evacuation or anything. But obviously, these things can cause all kinds of chaos, drain all kinds of resources. You're bringing in everybody. You're bringing in bomb squad. You're bringing in canines. You're bringing in a lot of resources that should be spent, elsewhere.
41-year-old Joelle Vanessa is now facing 4 charges, 3 felonies for falsely reporting a bomb threat, and 1 for fake stabbing. Dispatcher.
I didn't know there was a statute for fake stabbing.
Apparently, it's more common than you think.
Dispatchers take more than 850,000 calls every year, with less than 1% of that being, quote, unfounded. Most are legitimate, but deputies say the malicious ones create the biggest risk.
Quite frankly, he might be out by the...
Oh, boy. You had to.
We couldn't go an entire show without getting one.
Quite frankly, he might be out by the time this story airs, is really how kind of insignificant it is, because it's considered a quote-unquote nonviolent crime.
Here we go. This guy called in multiple bomb threats and a fake stabbing, and it's a nonviolent crime, so even though he's charged with felonies, he's not going to prison.
And let's assume that something serious actually did happen, and someone called in a legitimate 911 incident, and the police department didn't have the resources to respond to it adequately because their resources were spent at the Walmart twiddling their thumbs.
Again, this is California, so these legislators make a lot of stupid laws, and this is one that they just really haven't taken very seriously yet.
As for this case, the sheriff's office says finding the person responsible was a rare win, but they worry it won't deter others from trying. Now, if convicted, he could face several years in prison. For now, deputies say...
But he won't.
Because after all, it's California.
For now, deputies say let this be a lesson learned. Call 911 if you need it, but if you abuse it, you could end up behind bars. Live in Sacramento, covering local news that matters, Cedric Hood, Fox 40 News.
So there's the latest on the guy who called in bomb threats at Walmart and Jack in the Box.
You know what the most surprising aspect of the story was?
What's that?
911 was working. How often do we do stories about 911 not working in this state?
Well, notably, this story was in Sacramento and not Oakland or Los Angeles.
All right, Randy, it's time to reopen the blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And this one takes us to the land of garlic.
In Gilroy, someone stole a bunch of copper wire. For more, here's ABC 7 in the Bay.
Stolen copper wire left elementary students in Gilroy in the dark Thursday morning.
They learned a real-life lesson that day.
Okay, kids, here's the deal. You live in California, so sitting in the dark is what you're going to do. You're going to do it as a child. You're going to do it as an adult. You're going to do it because we have power companies that, well, they're pretty bad. And you're also going to do it because we have a lot of meth addicts who steal copper wire.
The Gilroy Unified School District said there was a break-in at Luigi Apria Elementary School. Almost half of the classrooms were without power at the start of the day. We spoke with Mayor Greg Bozo.
You know, any type of... Wait, the mayor of Gilroy's name is Bozo?
Well, maybe not all politicians are named that, but certainly they get called it all the time.
So you're telling me the residents of Gilroy were putting up signs in their front yards, vote for Bozo?
Bozo for mayor.
We spoke with Mayor Greg Bozo.
You know, any type of theft. If you wondered why I saved this story, that's the only reason.
You know, any type of theft that's going on in your community is absolutely terrible. And then when it happens to a school and that affects children and learning and education, it just makes it even worse.
And this isn't the first time something like this has happened. It was just earlier this year where school was closed for a week at a school in Vallejo because they stole all the copper wire.
Well, we learned during COVID that kids going to school wasn't that important after all.
The Gilroy Unified School District said this is the second incident in less than a month. A similar theft occurred at Rod Kelly Elementary School. Both incidents have been reported to the Gilroy Police Department.
What's unfortunate is that this has been going on forever.
Last month, California Attorney General Rob Bonta highlighted the surge in copper wire theft throughout the state. A bill that would bring stricter penalties for stolen metal sales is waiting to be signed by Governor Newsom. Assemblymember Mark Gonzalez authored the bill.
The goal here at the end of the day is to sort of devalue and defunk the idea that you're going to be able to cash in by stealing copper wire.
The bill would require junk dealers to document information about the seller and the name of the employee handling the transaction. It would also require identifying information about the actual metal, like weight, etchings, or serial numbers. Gonzalez said this bill is a stepping stone to fight back against a costly crime.
38,000 square feet of copper wire have been stolen. On the street value of that is $11,000. What it cost taxpayers? $2.5 million to repair, and the lights are still out.
That's California for you.
We all suffer because meth addicts want to cash in, and no one is willing to stop them.
The governor has until Monday to sign the bill.
So there you go. There is the Gilroy copper theft that left a school in the dark.
Well, I could say that I'm surprised, but then I would be lying to you. Thankfully, it sounds like Mayor Bozo is right on top of it.
Vote for Bozo, everybody.
You think Bozo is going to try to move up to the Assembly or the State Senate?
Bozo for governor. We've already got one now.
And given the prospects of who's running to replace him, we might have Bozo in Sacramento for a long time. You know, there wasn't one Bozo the Clown. There was a number of Bozo the Clowns. They changed them over time. We do that with politicians. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow at noon for another edition of The John Phillips Show.